Hi guys, and welcome to this short video about movements in interstellar marines. We have quite a complex movement and cover system now in IM, but it can be quite difficult to understand because there's very little feedback at the moment in the HUD. So I wanted to put together a short video which shows you how it all works and gives you a few insights into the stamina system and the best way of being able to use your marine. I'm doing this video on a very early version of the Norwegian map for Hell Week. As you can see, it's still got a lot of work left to be done on it, although we do have this rather beautiful pipeline above our heads at the moment and moving into this forested area where you could happily take a family for a little afternoon picnic. So this is a debug version of Interstellar Marines, and I'm running it through the editor, which is why the FPS is quite low. If you look on the bottom right hand side, you'll see that there's a few extra little parts to it. There's the walking section that you can see there, and then there's a number next to it. The text shows you what state that you're in, so idling, so just doing nothing, walking, sprinting, that kind of thing. And the number is the level of exhaustion that you have, or level of stamina. 0 means you're completely rested, and 1 means that you are totally exhausted. So you can see at the moment the number's on 0, stood idling, doing nothing, and if I aim through the reticle, you can see the reticle hardly moves. This means that I am very, very accurate when I fire. And in Interstellar Marines, you hit what you're aiming at, so there's no cone of fire. Your round will go where the reticle is aimed at when you fire. So if we walk around a little bit, you'll see the exhaustion level starts to increase, and it will cap at 0.95 or 9.5%. And if you're walking, you cannot go any higher than that in terms of exhaustion level. So we'll just kind of walk up and down a little bit until it reaches there. You'll see it's reached 0.095. So if I now zoom in with the reticle, you'll see it's a little more unstable than it was when I was idle. But that's not too bad. You'll still be fairly accurate when you're firing. The next level is to run, and that will cap out at 0.4 or 40%. As you can probably imagine by now, your accuracy will drop when you get to that level, and also you will notice that in your headphones or when you're listening, your heart rate will start to increase. The sound level of your heart will increase. Your breathing will start to increase. And if I stop now and aim through the reticle, you'll see it's significantly less accurate than it was before, but still within, I would say probably still within manageable margins. So with running and walking, you can still be an effective marine and you can still shoot reasonably accurately. But when you're sprinting and when you're 100% exhausted, that changes dramatically. As you can see, as I'm sprinting around now, the number is starting to go up and eventually it will cap at 1 or 100% exhaustion. So I've just carried on running up and down until it gets to that level. You can start to hear the heartbeat rising, the speed rising. The sound of your marine is starting to pant a lot because he's having to really exert himself. And there we go. So this is max exhaustion. And if I stop towards the top of this little hill and aim down the reticle, you'll see it's moving around an awful lot and highly inaccurate. This is why you should not sprint a lot in Interstellar Marines, because you will have problems hitting things. The second reason why you should not sprint a lot is if you watch the numbers on the bottom right, totally exhausted now. If I stop and start dropping down, the numbers are dropping down much slower than they were earlier. So between 100% exhaustion and 80% exhaustion, your exhaustion level drops down much slower than when it's below 80. And that's why if you get totally exhausted, it takes a long time to get down to a much lower level of exhaustion. So if you see it's at 80 and it's rapidly dropping down. You can hear that your breathing goes down, that your heart rate slows down and it's not as loud, and your accuracy improves as well. So sprinting is very good for short sprints, but if you get too exhausted, you are going to find it very difficult to hit anybody. So a couple more things that I wanted to show you. You can crouch walk like this, but you can also crouch run. And you can do that by just tapping the shift button, which is how I do it. There we go. And you can hear the keys in the background. Another small thing which a lot of people are not aware of is if you're crouching behind an obstacle and you just want to peek out, press and hold space and then drop it back down again. If you tap space, you'll stand up like that. Or you can hit control to do that as well. The final thing I wanted to mention is the jump. Now, a lot of people, especially when they first start playing Interstellar Marines, literally just tap jump. But the best way to jump is to press and hold for about a quarter of a second. If you think of it as flexing your knees when you jump, you don't just simply jump from having straight legs. You will always flex your knees to get the highest possible jump. And that's the same way that it works in Stellar Marines. We are trying to build as realistic as we can within the boundaries of the game, a movement system that works really well. And so that is something that's always to be aware of when we're building it. So as you can see, this is the Norwegian map from Hell Week. And if I just run around a little bit, just want to show you a few things. We introduced rates of fire in the recent hotfix 18.1 for update 18. So by default, it's bound to the left alt. So I can go full auto, single, burst. And I can also have it separate per weapon. So full auto, single. So that's on full auto. And the SMG is still on burst. So you can well imagine a situation if you're playing a game of Hell Week. And keep in mind that this is an incredibly large map. It's 400 meters squared. So at the beginning of a Hell Week, there'll only be 8 of you on a map this size, which is not a lot of people on an incredibly large map. So you may very well find yourself hunting other players. So if you've got your silencer on, crouched down, just watching out for other players as they're moving around. Move it across the single, and you can just... Now there's quite a bit of Hell Week information we've not released, so one of the goals of Hell Week is to be one of the final 8 players, and you do that by collecting resources as you're moving around. Every 15 minutes, the bottom 4 players will be ejected from the game, so if you camp in one spot and don't move, you'll be one of the first to be ejected. The other way of being ejected is by being killed. When there's 8 players left, then everyone goes into the central zone, and in there, that's called Hell, and in there is what we call Endgame, which is a separate section of Hell. And that is where, if you survive for the last few minutes, then you get to keep the resources that you have collected, and eventually we hope to put in a system where you can use that to, for example, get a skin or something, other kind of things, and you become one of the winners. So as you can tell, this is Norwegian. We've got 8 other different zones as Hell. There's industrial, there's wetlands, there is Siberian, there's canyon, there's quite a few others. And we have a test in about 10 days where we have quite a lot, all these zones connected together, and we're trying a very early version, but you can just start to imagine the scale of this game as you stood waiting to kill somebody. As you can probably tell, I cannot wait to start playing. So yeah, so that's a quick video on the movement of Interstellar Marines. As I mentioned at the start, I'm using a debug version of the game in the editor, and that's the reason for the low FPS, but that's also the reason why the information is shown on the bottom right hand side. We will eventually get this into the HUD so that you can see this kind of feedback, because it will be massively useful for players. What we need to do is find a good way of representing it, and then put the task into one of the sprints so we can do that. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you've got any feedback or anything else you'd like to know, please do post it up in the comments. In the meantime, enjoy your gaming. Take care.